I'm Charlene Banks, and I'm your spiritual director. And for today, since it's a holiday weekend, I am going to play Tamara's role as hostess. So here is where we discuss all of the spiritual topics and lessons for growth. The month of May, our whole topic area is emotions, because our annual theme is living everyday wonder, just finding wonder every single day, the month of May, through our emotions. And so today's talk, given by myself, is titled Low Tide or High Tide. So sit back and relax. Now, if you have a prayer request, if something's heavy on your heart, I would love for you to type it into the chat here in the Zoom session, and then I will incorporate it in to my spiritual mind treatment at the end of the talk. And today we are so blessed to have live our just favorite singer, Leah. So I'm so excited. All right, well, sit back, relax, and let's get started. We'll start with a meditation because I, in my brilliance, did not include the other video. Okay, so let's just go within and start with a meditation. And as we open up service, we know that we follow our 5 pillars of spiritual practices, knowing that these 5 pillars of study, meditation, circulation, and thankfulness are here, right now, in each and every one of us. As we imagine with our mind's eye a candle being lit, it is symbolic of the spirit within us, that little small light within us that gets its light from the ever-burning candle of the divine. That the fire, that the flame that lights our inner candle can never be exhausted, no matter how many other candles are lit. We live, we move, we have our beingness in this divine spark. As the divine spark. There can be no separation. Relax into our seat wherever we are, whether we're indoors, warm, or out in nature, resting in this very space that we have carved for ourselves, nurturing our one, our connection to the one, because there can be no other. We are all part of the divine. Individualities of the divine essence. Becoming more, never less, of who we came here to be. And we breathe in and out. Deepening our connection, anchoring into the ground of our being. love here. There's compassion here. There's wisdom here. Right here, right now, right where we are, this love and this compassion and this wisdom holds us. We are precious. We're right where we need to be. Anything we need to support our journey is right here. It's always been right here, right where we are. It's a part of us that's never been hurt, never been harmed, was never born and shall never die. That is the truth of who we are. This is our unified ground of being. This is where we return to invigorate ourselves, to love and be loved unconditionally. When we live, we move, we have our beingness in this divine love. And if we ever forget who we really are, we return right here. All is well. And in gratitude for this time that we spend with our divine self, with our higher inner guide, we are so grateful for this time we spend as a community coming together and going into this space. We deepen our connections, not only with ourselves, but with one another, sharing the silence, sharing the profound oneness, and communing with one another at this deeper quantum level. We are forever changed. And so with this, we simply return our awareness into the room. It may help to wiggle your extremities and just come back to this external world. We open our eyes with a softened gaze, and we smile because all is truly well. Now I would like to stop sharing so we could see all of Leah.
Good morning, CSO Leesburg. This song is one that I learned when I was a very little girl. It was in the hymnal in the church where I grew up. And it is one of the songs that still sings to me, still speaks to me, and reminds me of what is possible, regardless of the tide.
Hey Leah, we're getting requests for you to turn up your volume. Is it possible?
I'm getting that request now and not later. Is that better?
They're saying, eh.
That's surprising.
Yeah, I hear you okay, so it might be good. Just
Yeah.
Everyone turn up your computer if you need to.
Yeah, right. That might help. I'll sing through this microphone then, because I know that will be a little louder. I don't know if you heard what I said, but this is a song I learned when I was a little girl. When peace like a river attended my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows, when they roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, all is well, all is well with my soul. All is well with my soul. All is well, all is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, Leah. That was beautiful. I've heard that song before, but not to the degree that you just, whew, man, made me want to say sang, sang. See, sang, not sing. It's sang. So it is well with my soul. You see, today's talk is about sadness. We've been talking all month about our emotions, from fear to happiness to anger. And now it's time to talk about sadness. And grief and sadness are sort of the same ball of emotion. And I just wanted to point out that this whole month of emotions is by no mistake before the next month talk, which is all about the body. Because our emotional state, which is composed of images, as you know, we are human and we are creative because of our ability to make pictures in our minds. In fact, that was the original form of communication and understanding our world, was through images. We know about the old cave drawings of the prehistoric peoples. The ability to draw an image and to hold it in mind is the direct access to the emotions. Image, emotions, it's the vehicle through which we get information to and from our bodies. And so I can't wait to talk to you about the body next week. But the final emotion to talk about today is the sadness. And the title is Low Tide or High Tide. And we speak of emotions, and a lot of times people do use water as the metaphor for our emotions because they ebb and they flow. And they ebb just like the tide, and they flow. And so if we were at the shore, standing on the shore of a beach, of the ocean, or any sort of body of water, we would notice how the waves ebb and flow. And using the Earth's gravitation or the moon's gravitational pull on the Earth, sometimes that tide goes out where there's not as much water on the beach. It seems to be a lot more sand than there is water. We could stand right where we are, not move, and the water line will go out a little bit and then come in, maybe come in so far that now we're submerged because the tide is in. And these tides, low and high, always moving, have become synonymous with our emotions and with specifically our sadness. When we're in high tide, that might be when there's not a lot of sadness. We're feeling buoyant and we're bouncing around. Everything's great. Lots of water, lots of good things are happening. Low tide, where'd that water go? Where did everything go? Why is everything so different? I'm empty, things are changing, and it's not good. And yet we know that that's not the permanent state of things. We know that given a little bit of time, that tide will come in again. My question to us today is, why is it so hard to believe that the tide will come in again when it's currently not in? Why do we always run from sadness and from grief as if it's forever? It's always going to be here, so therefore I must avoid it. In fact, many 12-step programs talk about the fact that you have to sit through the hard times and possibly hit rock bottom before your ego is ready to take a back seat and before we can turn everything over to our higher power. In fact, that rock bottom, if you want to think about it as such, is a kind of a delineation point between what Richard Rohr calls stage 1 life and stage 2 life. Stage 1 life is, imagine when you were born into the family of your origin and you were given rules, you were given some behavior patterns that you must follow, and you were told the difference between right and wrong. You were told that if you do stray from right and wrong, there will be consequences. And some consequences are man-made. Sometimes it's a swat on the bottom, as you know, in addition to whatever natural consequences come from your behavior. And so for the first stage of our lives, we're just trying to follow the rules, and there's not a whole lot of tolerance for anything around the edges. Even if you were raised in a very allowing type of family, you still had some rules. You probably went to school where they taught you some rules, and those rules, if you broke them, had consequences. Now, I know for a fact, if you decided at 16 that you wanted to drive, there were some rules. And if you broke the rules, they had consequences. There was no escaping stage 1, the laying down of rules and the mandatory following of said rules. But something happens. Richard Rohr says it's kind of between the age of 35 and 55 that you're going to hit a stumbling stone, a stumbling block, something that makes you trip up and fall, and it's not all going according to plan anymore. You could be the perfect wife, making all the kids' lunches and folding all the clothes and making sure that everybody's at school on time and going on and on and on. And somehow you still got breast cancer. This wasn't supposed to happen. I followed all the rules, one might say. The typical midlife crisis of anyone, where the gentleman climbs the corporate ladder in just the prescribed way, having attended all the proper classes and gotten all the requisite degrees and did everything exactly the way he was supposed to do it. And then life is just not fulfilling. What is it all worth? What good is it? I'm just unfulfilled. I'm just working harder and harder, and everything's stressing me out. And I have to work for a vacation, which I can't take because there's too much. You've heard the stories, and I could go on, but every one of us in our personal life will have a huge rock bottom / stumbling point where all the rules no longer apply. That's when our ego is invited to take a back seat, because it's been running us up until now. We've tried to do everything right, and it's just not working. And sometimes the tragedy or whatever it is that brings you so-called down is externally based, like the one who got the cancer, or the one who the husband left her. Now she's got to figure out, geez, I don't have any way of making a living. I used to rely on my husband and he left. Those things can be externally brought on, or they can be internally generated. Just a sense of general malaise and I can't do this anymore. I can't do this for 1 second longer. So Richard Rohr says that this is our time, that what is in the problem, that what's in this situation that makes us hit rock bottom, not only is it the problem, it is also the solution. The way in is the way out. You lean into the problem to get out of the problem. Many of you know that for me, it was a 12-step program that finally woke me up. I was in the whole, I have to be skinny and beautiful, and I have to try to be a model. And if I decided not to be a model, because I want to actually work with my brain and do software, well, I want to be able to look like one. And so I'll throw up all the food I eat. How about that? Let's do that. Okay, that's a bad idea. Even the first day I tried it, but for some reason, I decided to get really good at it. So there I was in my early 30s in the 12-step program, asking the divine, what the hell? I'm trying to do everything right. I mean, I did try to take some shortcuts, hence the throwing up, which caused all kinds of coping mechanisms which weren't for my good, and which isolated me and made me feel alone and separate from other people, which increased my sadness, brought about some depression, and left me with no way out. And all the studies I was doing, I was in Science of Mind, and I was reading and doing treatments, and nothing worked because I wasn't really looking at myself. I hadn't really stumbled hard. I was just putting frosting on top of poop and calling it cake. So no, that's not good enough. I sat there in those 12-step meetings, and in those meetings, the first thing I found was that I wasn't alone. I looked around me, and there were other people just like me who were saying things that I couldn't find the words to say. They were saying things that I felt only I had these problems, and they were speaking them out of their mouths. And these young ladies were alive to talk about it. There were ways to get through it. Notice I didn't say get around it. There were ways to get through it. In fact, they had a whole 12-step program to get around it. And as reluctant as I was to start it, I really, really knew at the deepest part of my heart that if I didn't, that I would die. I knew I would be dead. I mean, I was pretty lucky that I hadn't killed myself up to that point. Now that I look back and look at all the different things you can do to your body, the esophagus, I could have bled out. I mean, oh my God, I'm so lucky I'm not dead. So I knew that I had to hold on to these people like they were a life raft. And whatever they told me to do, I would do it. Because the way that I was living wasn't getting me anywhere. Ego, take a back seat. Sure enough, over the months and then over the years, I allowed these beautiful souls to help me heal. So and I mean, for me, hiding who I was no longer an option. I had to come out to people, so-called come out to people and admit these were the things I was doing, and I had to apologize to people. And then I had to face every single demon that I thought was bad about me. That was what was keeping me sick, right? They kept saying, you're only as sick as your secrets. And so you had to just not have any secrets. You had to live out loud and live boldly and show up for life. And if people didn't like you, that's their right not to like you. But it doesn't mean I have to change who I am to make people like me. I mean, these were huge things that I'm sure other people tried to tell me. I'm sure there are many people who kept saying, I told you that, Shar. But I wasn't ready to hear it until I was ready to hear it. And so that brings me to my stage 2 life, which is I am who I am unapologetically, and I'll make fun of myself because it's not that serious. Mistakes are just, look at that. So I am human after all. That's right, I make mistakes. Of course I make mistakes. I'll point them out first. Because the last thing I want to do is run around with a shadow that I haven't met yet. I want to be friends with all of my shadow behavior. And I want to know what it is about me that makes me judge other people, because usually it's another pointer to a shadow part that I'm not ready to accept. Remember this, because these are the personal stages in life that we must go through to become a fully actualized human being who might be on the planet to help make it become a better place. If we don't go through this, if we stay stuck in stage 1, well, we're a little bit shallow, we don't have very interesting stories, and we're still pretending, so nobody can really relate to us. It's by going through the stumbling, by facing our shadow, and then embracing even the parts of us that are kind of yucky. Well, it keeps us humble, it keeps us from judging other people, and it keeps us real. Yeah, every time I start judging someone, I'm like, oops, that's probably true about me. If I'm judging somebody, she's always late. I'm like, oh, that would be me. I'm always late. Every single time I'm judging somebody, I say, well, yep, that would be me. That's me. Keeps me humble and keeps me compassionate. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been going through as a society, and then I'll talk to you about how the what happens on the personal side of things also happens on the spiritual community side of things. So right now, today, we can look back the last 2 weeks and we can count how many mass shootings there have been, and it's disgusting. It makes you sad inside. I know for me, the sadness is what comes after the anger. So first it pisses me off, and then I'm really sad about it. And then I look at the people who are perpetrators of this, and I think about the teachings that they must be embracing. And then as I'm tempted to stay in my sadness and to stay in some anger, what I'm taught by Richard Rohr, Ernest Holmes, and every other enlightened thinker of today, it's that's me. That's me. Just like when I judge somebody for being late or judge somebody for not having their stuff together, that's me. Well, something about that thinking that allows someone to suit up in armor and go in to a place where there are defenseless people, and just because the way they look, or just because they're just vulnerable, just start shooting them. Just start shooting them. That's, there couldn't be a reason enough. But the fact that that happened, I have to look at that and say, that's me. That's me. Because how could it not be? Are we one? Do we believe that there's only one presence, only one, and we're all one, we're all connected? Then that is me. And then I have to find compassion, and I have to find love, and I have to find forgiveness for me. Because if I don't, then I'm still in that stage one, trying to pretend I don't have negative feelings. I don't have hate towards people. I don't have putting on facades and making it everybody else's fault. Yeah, that's some stage one behavior, refusing to stumble. And when I do, pretending I didn't. So I have to say, look at that. Look at that right there. That's me. So we'll come back to that. At the end of the talk, we'll talk about how we can, what are we going to do with it if that's me? Because a lot of you are like, no, I don't want it to be me. It's okay. Because first I have to tell you about spiritual community, because it all hinges upon that. But let me start at the beginning. Spiritual community in stage one tends to do things like, I'll read to you directly from Richard Rohr, because he's so awesome. And the book that I've got here is called Falling Upward, which is, I love that whole thing. So listen what he says. One could say that the tragedy, the goat stories of racism, slavery, sexism, the Crusades, the Inquisition, and the 2 world wars, all of which emerged in and were tolerated by Christian Europe, are a stunning manifestation of our disillusionment and disgust with ourselves and with one another. When we could not make the world right and perfectly ordered, we were told it should be. He's saying, when we couldn't make the world right and perfectly ordered as we were told it should be, we went out and enslaved people and made people wrong for being women. And we did the Crusades, and remember those. I mean, if the world's not going to conform to the way we were told it should be, then let's get out there and hurt them. Okay, back to Richard. We could not love the imperfection within ourselves or within the natural world. So how could we possibly build any bridges towards Jews, Muslims, people of color, women, sinners, or even other Christians? How could we? None of them fit into the order that we had pre-decided on. We had to kill, force, imprison, torture, and enslave as we pursued our colonization of the rest of the world along with the planet itself. We did not carry the cross, the tragic sense of life, but we became experts instead of imposing tragedies on others. So when he says we, he's talking about the spiritual community that a lot of us had in our stage one on this planet. I came from Catholicism / Baptism / Baptist / Methodist. We went to a lot of churches. So yeah, we were told this is wrong, that's right. God said do it, you didn't do it, you're gonna fail, and then you're a sinner, and sinners go to hell, and that's that. And by the way, since we can't tolerate our own shadow, we've not done any shadow work, let's kill everybody who's not like us. What the hell? All right, now kill them, enslave them forever, and make them wrong for being brown. What the hell? So that's some stage one activity. And I'm not going to hang out there, but I love Richard Rohr, the way he just laid it down. He laid it down. And so then the stumbling stone for spiritual community. When did that come about? And a lot of people say a lot of different things. In my opinion, it was when Jesus came about and said, okay, hold up. And now remember, a lot of things happened after Jesus got on the earth. We know that a lot of the slavery and all this stuff happened after Christ. So clearly it wasn't Jesus himself as a stumbling stone, but his teachings are now being taken for their merit. What did he mean when he said these words? And a lot of us, we're in a teaching right now, you, me, and other people in this room are in a teaching right now based on what Jesus meant, not on what some people did from what they thought he meant. Because listen, did Jesus ever say, let's go get the sinner and kill her? No. He always protected those who were so-called sinners and had a problem with people who didn't think that they had any sin at all. He had a problem with those people who said, oh, not me. So listen to the fact that every single time where there was redemption, it was redemption because of some perceived shadow thing, something perceived that was terrible. That within that terrible thing was the seeds of redemption. Just like me when I finally found this 12-step group. Well, what got me there? What got me there was the thing that healed me. The fact. So within the so-called sin, there is that redemption. And so the true meaning of Jesus, the true Christ within, which is what New Thought teaches, is that we are the divine. We are children of the divine, just as Jesus was. We are that. We don't need to go around just showing symbols of the one time Jesus was a victim to something. And then we don't point to it and say, okay, so we're good. No. We talk about the life of Jesus Christ, all the things that Jesus said, among other great teachers. And instead of arguing amongst other people, amongst other religions about who points to the moon the right way. A lot of times religions argue with each other about how, instead of looking at the moon, for example, and saying, yeah, it's a beautiful moon, we argue with each other. You're pointing to it wrong. Point the way I'm pointing, you're pointing wrong. Why are we arguing with each other as we are all pointing to the same thing? Let's all agree on that thing that we know is there, which is the divine intelligence that sparked life in each and every one of us. Let's not argue about how we articulate it, but rather that redemption experience is that learning and that realizing I am one with the divine. That's that redemption. I am one with the divine. Yeah, I had to stumble to get here. But we figured out that we're one with the divine, and that is our spiritual community. We come together in this New Thought movement because we realize we are one with the divine. And because that's true, we now have to not pretend to be something else. We can be who we really are, and we can live our lives every day supporting the fact that we know we're one with the divine. So what does that look like? Well, at the Center for Spiritual Living, the Global Vision, I'm going to read to you, and I'll close with this reading of our Global Vision, because it's amazing. And remember, we're at stage 2. We know who we are. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where each and every person discovers their own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. And remember, I said, that's me, because I know I am one with all that is. And so yet I'm in a teaching now that gives me something to do with it. That's me. And we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. That's me. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience. in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. That's me. We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement and justice. That's me. We envision a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is generous and continuous sharing of goods. We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. And that's me. And so I bring us now to our closing prayer. Let me check the chat to see if there's any requests. I just know that in this time where we are so fraught with external pushes and pulls upon us, that what is true is we are one with the divine. There's only one power. There's only one life. We are living that life. We are the life of God, of the universal spirit, of the feminine divine, whatever you call it. We are one with it. We cannot be separate from it. We live, we move, we have our beingness in this divine oneness. There is no other. That's me. And since I am one with this divine, I also know that the overarching path is toward greater and greater good, even as we witness stumbling blocks, even as we experience sadness in the wake of such tragedies. We know that right here, right now, in the very presence of what appears to be tragedy is the divine. There are seeds of redemption right where that is. And right in that situation is the emergence of love and compassion. Right where they are. It's true in Buffalo, it's true in Uvalde, it's true in every single sanctuary or place where there has been any appearance of disorder, of chaos. Right there, right in the presence of that is the divine. Acting in and as and through and even in the midst of those terrible circumstances. Right there is that redemption baked right in. It can be no other way. Nothing is separate from the divine. And so I speak my word that we remember who we really are, that we reveal our compassion in these times, these trying times, in these times when we're sad, that we unlock our love and point it toward wherever it seems to be lacking. When we watch the news, we use it as a prayer request. We hold the highest and the best in mind, knowing that right where that situation is the divine impulse happening, ever winding toward a higher and higher good for all involved. We don't rush past our sadness. We allow it to inform us, and we face the shadows, and we allow it to make ourselves more and more compassionate each and every day. I look forward to just watching as this community unfolds to its higher and higher good. I'm very grateful for being able to be part of this amazing group of people. And I release my word into the law, knowing it is already done And so it is. Amen. Ashe. Leah, take us home.
We're already home, Shar. You know it. I'll sing about it. I'll sing about it. I'm gonna dive into that metaphor of emotion, experience, life being like water. And the song is called Heart Wide Open, recognizing that the waves of our lives do ebb and flow. So when this chant becomes familiar to you, I invite you to sing along. And is this volume comfortable for everybody? All right, here we go. Keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You got to keep your heart wide open till my faith brings you back to solid ground. Keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You got to keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Although the waves want to push you around. Although the waves want to push me around. You got to keep. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open until my faith brings you back. Brings me back to solid ground. Until my faith brings me back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Though the waves want to push around. Though the waves want to push me around. You got to keep. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. One more time. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. Keep your heart open. Don't just stop open. Go away. Want to push us around. Although the waves wanna push us around. We got to keep. Let's keep our heart. Till my faith brings us back to solid ground. Till my faith brings us back to solid ground.
Woo, that was amazing. Thank you. I don't know how I saw a bunch of us in there just dancing. Awesome. Okay, let us share. All right, so time for time for our donation request. So as you know, CSL Leesburg is a we're not for profit, and we also tithe 10% of what you give us. We turn around and donate it to different organizations every quarter. And so our most recent donation, I wanted to say, is going to Mobile Hope, where we've collected a lot of goods for those who are unhoused in the Loudoun County area. So thank you for all of your donations. And so text your donation to the number on the screen, or you can Cash App us or PayPal, whatever way is comfortable with you. We do appreciate that you support us so we can keep doing what we do here. Whatever way you give, simply get your gift and hold it on your heart and say with me our affirmation. The presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact. Therefore, I am a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. And so it is. All right, and for announcements, we have the usual. Dream Study happens on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m., so come on and join us. And then this is our last, actually, May is going to be over by the time this Wednesday comes about, but we're still going to be doing our visioning for CSL Leesburg on Wednesday nights. And there will be a few other little things sprinkled in that have to do with experiencing the mind-body healing connection. So we'll make sure you find out about that. We'll send that out to our email group. And it's time for our closing affirmation. So it's been wonderful having you here. Hopefully you'll stick around afterwards and we'll do our pearls where we all in the Zoom room kind of talk about what really stood out. If you're watching on Facebook, then now's the time to click off and come on in to the Zoom room to discuss your pearls. Okay, guys, you can unmute your mic and say with me, I am love.
I am love.
Yay. Now you can point at somebody if they're in the room with you or point at the screen and say, you are love, my dear.
You are love, my dear.
And now let's put our hands up in the air and wave them like you just don't care. It's all love, y'all.
It's all love.
All love. Yes.
Okay. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.